It's a whole lot of us, that's my family. Wanna go higher, turn up the tempo, increase the BPM, okay. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM. Increase the BPM.
What's up, guys? Chris Morgan, FCA at the University of Louisville. Welcome to our weekly podcast, In the Huddle, where we ask current, former athletes, coaches to come into this huddle, to come in this space, to talk about their stories, talk about what God has done, what he is doing, and what he will continue to do. Super excited about today. Have Cresse, one of our women's volleyball players. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I know a lot of people, obviously, they can look at the program and see they've been to the games, they've cheered, but my hope is that when people get done listening to this, they have a peek behind the curtain, so to speak, and see more of your life, just who you are. So tell us, what was it like from Fort Wayne, Indiana? Mm-hmm. Tell us what it was like growing up in the Cresse household.
Yeah, it was a little bit different than normal, I think. I come from a family of 10. There's 8 of us, 7 girls, 1 boy. I'm one of the middle children, so grew up in a Christian household. My dad moved from Salt Lake City, Utah to Fort Wayne, Indiana for ministry, actually. He felt called for ministry, and now he's the worship pastor at the church that I grew up in. So I was homeschooled the majority of my life, too, so we were literally like the stereotypical homeschool family. We had the 12-passenger van, so I would not change it for the world. I love growing up in a big family. It's like I always had a best friend around, and it grew up raised Christian, was always at church, involved in Christmas musicals and summer FCA camps and vacation Bible school, everything. So I loved it. It was a little different, obviously, growing up as the pastor's kid. I feel like sometimes I still kind of hear like, oh, you're a pastor's kid, blah, blah, blah. Like, you had it so great, but it definitely is different. I mean, your family's kind of under a spotlight a little bit. So that's always been something kind of in the back of my mind, but yeah.
All right, so man, you said so much in there. That's so awesome. Like, so let's unpack some of that. Like, so 7 girls, 1 boy, 8. That's awesome. I love. I would have 15 kids if Tammy wanted. Tell me what that dynamic is like. Obviously, you said six girls and 7 boys. Seven girls, 1 boy.
Yeah.
So how'd that work? Like, I mean, obviously it's a lot, but like even within your siblings, you shared rooms with, like, did you pick, your parents pick? Tell us, like, what's that look like?
Yeah, so I did not grow up in a small house, but for our family, it was a small house. So I was used to sharing a room with like 3 to 4 other girls. We had 1 bathroom. Well, we had 3 bathrooms, 1 downstairs. My parents had their bathroom in the master bedroom, and then like all 8 of us shared 1 bathroom. So
that's awesome.
It's crazy because like you asked me about it. It's like, oh, like that was normal. Like I don't really think anything of it now. But it was definitely like chaotic. There was a lot of chaos, and we were all homeschooled too. So we're all home like all the time. So it was definitely an adventure, but it was also so much fun. It was like I always had someone to play with and hang out with. So, I mean, they're still all my best friends. Like, I love each of them, and I just feel so close to each of them in a different way, too, which has always been so special.
Yeah, so, I mean, built-in friends.
Right.
And God hooked you up big time. He gave you a lot of friends.
Right.
I love that. I love that concept. So tell me about sports. Obviously, in a big family, was sports everybody's thing, or was sports just a couple things, or how'd that work with even sports?
Yeah, it was definitely just like, I don't want to say like an expectation, but just like a thing in our family. My 2 older sisters played volleyball in high school. One of them played at an NAIA school in college. My brother played basketball through high school. So, I mean, seeing them do that, like I automatically wanted to play too. And then I think it's the same for my little sisters too. They're all either playing basketball or volleyball. So yeah, it was kind of just.
But you had your own cheerleading squad,
right?
Really, like if somebody played that, you you knew that you had people that were with you.
Right.
That's so good. Love. You talk about being a PK, pastor's kid.
Yeah.
Obviously, that can be challenging, difficult. Not in a bad way,
Oh.
but in a way, just like sometimes people just don't understand what that lifestyle may be like. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, when I was young, it was so much fun. Like, I'd get to go with my dad early, like on Sunday mornings. I'd hang out with some of the other pastors' kids. And I grew up in a pretty small church too. Like, it's grown a lot, which is awesome, but pretty small church. So everyone kind of just knew each other too, like just very small community. So everyone kind of knows everything about you, like, I don't know. It's never been like a negative experience, but I think growing up, I realized a little bit more like, okay, like people are looking at you, like your dad's leading the church, like you're going to be looked at, and not always in a bad way. Like I know I have a lot of supporters in that church too, which is great. But it's still like, okay, like you have to learn to kind of like be careful about how you portray yourself a little bit, you know?
And I can even speak maybe even for Taylor. My dad wasn't a preacher, but even being with FCA, I can kind of feel, like sometimes your kids feel like, man, maybe I have to always be on, and not that it's a game or a show, but I think it's never said that, hey, you got to be on,
Right.
but it's just like that not pressure. I don't think that's, it could be the word pressure. Like, you always have to be welcoming. You always have to be this. You always have to be around the first one there and the last one to leave, turn out the lights, and all those things. I guess the one thing about looking at my daughters is watching them grow where their faith becomes their own faith. It's not just what dad has been saying through FCA meetings, but now they're out on their own and they get to like choose. They get to choose, do I go to church or do I go to FCA or do I have a quiet time with God? That's what I mean just by like, when did that really become your own?
Right. Yeah, that is huge. Like I don't fully feel like it became my own until I got to college. I love the Lord. Like for as long as I can remember, like I've desired to follow the Lord, but I don't know if I like truly knew what that meant until I was on my own, like completely separated from everyone. First, like it was difficult to like find a church a little bit. Obviously, like through FCA, there were so many like connections with churches, but it was like, oh, like in my mind, it was like, I want to find one just like the one I have at home. Like that's what I'm used to. Like, so trying to navigate that and like, just like following like where the Lord wanted to lead me. Like I didn't know where that was at the time, but so that was huge. But also just like finding time on my own to spend in the Word. Like at home growing up, we would have like little family devotionals or Bible studies before bed. Sometimes just like prayer sessions. Like my parents prayed with me every night. And it's like, okay, I don't have that anymore. Like now it's like I'm doing this not on my own, but separated from them and trying to navigate that 3.5 hours away from home. So I definitely feel like in college, like I was pushed so much spiritually and God revealed himself in so many ways to me, and he still is. But yeah, I just think it was difficult at first, but honestly, it was just like leaning on the Lord and trusting and finding people here too that can push me in that as well.
Yeah, that's I kind of speak for your father, just being a father of a daughter similar to you, come from the home and then going on her own. It's such a, I don't know if she'll watch this or not, she might, but it's such a rewarding thing as a father when your daughter calls back and says, this is what God is showing me. Or you see something on a post, like what she's reading and what she's showing. Like, because when it's earlier, you have the family devotions and normally it's mom or dad that are kind of like leading that. And I don't want to say that like you're a prisoner in the home where you just have to listen, because they participated so much and it was willingly participate, but now you get to choose whether or not you do it. So Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome that you. So sports were big for your family, big for you. What sports did you play?
Only volleyball.
Only volleyball.
Yeah.
That's
People
it.
always ask me like, "Oh, do you play basketball?" I'm like, "No, I actually never even tried."
Mm.
So, I mean, growing up like homeschooled too, there wasn't a ton that was offered to me in sports, but I just stuck with volleyball. I don't know, my sisters played it and I wanted to do it too. So,
Wow. So volleyball was your thing. When did you notice like, okay, I can play this game. I'm pretty gifted at this.
I would say sophomore to junior year of high school. I didn't start playing like club travel volleyball until I was a freshman in high school. And before that, it was just like, it was such a hobby for me. Like, I just enjoyed it. Like, I was having so much fun playing it on my little homeschool team. But then actually, like, a club coach was kind of like, hey, like, he saw me play. He was like, I'd really like to see her, like, pursue it a little bit more at, like, a little higher level. So I started travel volleyball. And then, like, 2 years in, it was like, okay, I remember this specific tournament. It was a really big recruiting tournament and in Indianapolis. And I was there in like one of the games. I'm like on the bench and my teammate comes up to like, Kara, look at all these coaches around. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, that's like whatever. It was like Indiana, Ball State, Louisville. And I was like, what? Like they're literally here for you. And I was like, what in the world? Like it was just a huge like shock because I really didn't want to play volleyball in college. And if I did, I'd probably play at a small school because I was like, I just want to like, it's so much fun and I want to get a good degree. And at the time, it was like, I kind of just want to live my life outside of volleyball. I was also really big into music too. So it was like, I kind of had to pick between one or the other. But yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, like I was improving and got more looks from colleges, started to get some emails once it was legal to talk to me. And I don't know, after that, I was like, okay, wait, maybe this is more than just a hobby. Like I'm actually really passionate about this and I want to pursue this.
That's good. So you want to pursue this, and that's when you start pushing your chips in, and now people start really pursuing after you. What are some other other places? What did the recruiting thing look like for somebody, especially with homeschool? What does that look like? A lot of people listening may not even understand the concept. We homeschooled for a couple of years with our kids. Loved it.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what the recruiting process looked like.
Yeah, travel volleyball made it so much easier. That's really like a big like recruiting time, like your travel season. So I think the rules change. They've like changed so much with recruiting, but I feel like they changed like right before I started getting recruited. And like I couldn't talk to them until I was a junior in high school or something like that. So the first year it was like a little weird because it was like I couldn't really even talk to them at tournaments. It's like, well, how am I supposed to like get to know them? But then my junior year, that's when I started to talk to people more, and it was scary. Like people were always like, oh, like you have to just enjoy the process. Like you should love it. Like this is such a good time in your life. I hated it. I felt so much just added pressure and just stresses all the time. It was like, okay, stresses to perform well. Like if I felt like college coaches were watching me, pressure to say the right things when I'm on phone calls with them, and just also just the thought of like, oh my word, I have to pick where I'm going to be at for the next 4 years. So that was really difficult. And once I finally started narrowing down, so actually back to the homeschool thing, I started going to a private Christian school junior, senior of high school. So it was still a really small school, but actually like some coaches actually came to watch my high school games, which I feel like made it a little bit easier than when I was homeschooled. But yeah, once I finally started narrowing down the decisions, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is really real. And that was probably to this day, like the hardest decision I've had to make. And I remember like calling the other schools and being like, I'm not coming here, and just like bawling the rest of the day, like literally, because I'm such a people pleaser too. So the fact that I felt like I had let someone down was so difficult for me. And I just remember like crying the rest of that day. But then once I called Louisville and made my decision, it was like, oh my word, like this is so exciting. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've always seen that quality in you, not as far as people pleaser, but just selfless. Like you're just so selfless. Like And it's noticeable. It's noticeable in the way you play. It's noticeable in the way you lead. So that's a great attribute to have. But I guess the downside of that is sometimes you can like choose other things even if you don't want to do it, just because you care so much about people. So I'm glad. I'm glad you chose University of Louisville. But why did you choose University of Louisville?
Yeah, this is always kind of like a difficult question for me to answer to some people, because I really feel like it was such like just kind of like spirit led. Like obviously there were so many great qualities. I loved the coaches right away. It was like I loved the program that they were building, and the girls were awesome. I remember coming on my visit, and I originally didn't even want to come on my visit. I thought I was going to go somewhere else, but I came here and the girls were so awesome. It was just like an automatically welcoming community, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. But also it was just such like an answer to prayer. I feel like I had to take such a leap of faith in my recruiting process, just because like I was narrowed down to like 3 different schools, and I was really just like unsure of what to do. And I finally sat down and just wrote down the pros and cons of each one. And it was like the other schools, it just felt like all of my pros were very just materialistic. It was like, oh, the facilities were great, whatever. But here, when I was writing down for here, I noticed it was like all about the culture and the community and how I felt when I was here and what I feel like the coaches can really do for me. So that was ultimately what it came down to. And honestly, I was just like, Lord, like, lead me. Like, I don't know exactly where you want me. Like, I really felt so just kind of confused and just lost in a way, because I didn't know for sure where I was going to end up. And then it was like, like this just felt right. And here I am. It's been such an answer to prayer.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that is from the athletic standpoint, volleyball team, but also just even from FCA standpoint, because from the moment that you came on campus, it was you were part of what God is doing on our campus from an FCA standpoint. You really got the whole thing that being a Christian is about. A Christian athlete is to use your platform to share your faith, or to use your platform in such a way that people see you, that you can compete at the highest level and be an All-American and be this and be that and still have a vibrant relationship with God. How long has that been? I mean, I'm sure your mom and dad and your family has kind of always ingrained athletics that way, but when did you really start to see like, okay, I can really start using this as an incredible platform?
Yeah, I want to say my freshman year. I feel like any athlete knows it's just difficult to come in freshman year, and it's easy to feel like small coming on. And I was like scared, like, oh, I'm going to be so alone, like in my faith, whatever. And that was just not the case. Like there were so many girls on my team that loved the Lord and really led me spiritually. And being a part of FCA too, and being in Bible studies with Tammy, it was like there were constant reminders that like just because you're a freshman, like you are not held at like a lower standard, I guess. Like you can still spread the word, you can still spread the gospel. Even though I was redshirting and wasn't even touching the court my freshman year, there were still so many ways that I was able to just spread the love of the Lord. And even if that was just on my team or on a bigger platform, like there were just so many opportunities. And I don't know, I feel really blessed to have known that I have a platform freshman year.
Yeah, well, you've used that platform, and again, the quality of being selfless. And I guess, looking at what you kind of already said, I guess if you grow up in a family of 8 kids, you have to learn to be selfless.
True.
I mean, with one bathroom that you share a
Oh,
bathroom,
yeah.
I mean, it's not just about you and your time. It's about, hey, the greater good of the whole team here. Tell us about volleyball. Obviously, you guys are having an incredible year. You're gelling as a team on the court, but you all are really close off the court as well. That speaks volumes of what Coach Danny and Dan and all those guys are building over there. But just talk to us a little bit about volleyball. It's clicking for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy because coming in, like I knew Louisville was a great program. I knew Danny, Dan, and Todd were all great coaches and building something great. But I never expected I would be on a Final Four team, on a national championship team. And that's just been an added bonus. Like I said, like when I came on my visit, the girls were so awesome and welcoming and kind. And coming here, it's like just a whole, like another experience. Like literally, we joke about it. Like who would have known that some coaches would have taken some random girls from different places over the U.S. and even other countries. And now we're best friends and basically sisters. So I think the fact that we're spending so much time together on every team, you're spending so much time with your teammates in the locker room, on the court, even off the court, it's like, it's hard to not become best friends. And I do feel like so blessed, and I feel like our program is pretty unique, and like our culture, I think Danny is just set such a good standard for us. And something that I always go back to is this thing they taught me since my freshman year. It's P2P. It stands for player to player. And we really take pride in not talking behind each other's backs and not just like beating around the bush when like issues come, because issues are going to come. We're together all the time. There's conflicts are going to happen. But instead of just avoiding it, actually talking to each other face to face, player to player. And I think that gets us through so much and just builds our bond even more. And I mean, I think our culture and the bond the teammates have is a huge, huge reason why we've been so successful. And it really is just an added bonus.
Yeah. Culture drives function. And I just remember how Coach Danny earlier on was, I think it's maybe year one, but she, from the moment she got here, started talking about black banners. Like had a great team at Louisville before, but there were a lot of white banners. I think I'm using the right term, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and then black up in the thing where that's when you start getting into the postseason,
right?
And really start doing some memorable things. And Louisville volleyball has a name. I mean, it's a name now that people really want to be part of that. That's exciting. Talk to us about why an athlete, because FCA's grown over the years as well. What's the benefits for an athlete to come to a Monday night FCA?
Mm-hmm. The community is so great. I think, like I said, like when I came into college trying to find a church, like it can be difficult to find a community that you feel comfortable with. And honestly, like we're so blessed to have a community right here on campus of other people your age, other people in the same shoes as you with your sport, and just coming together and wanting to learn more about the Lord. Like I have made so many friendships in FCA that are just so spirit-led and Christ-centered, which has been such a blessing. And it's just so fun. Like it's something else outside of your sport too. Like you're so used to this routine, sport, class, homework, whatever. And then you have this experience on Monday night where you just get to come together with other athletes, not really even talk about your sport, and just come together, dive into the Word, learn more about God's love letter, and just grow with each other in that, and just obtain great relationships too.
A lot of people, obviously, as I've grown older, I've seen the importance of just even someone of your caliber at your sport, the platform that you've been given, that young girls, even young boys, watching just as far as an athlete, what you can do when you're faithful to God and the gifts that He's given you. Use those in return. Just give Him glory. Mm-hmm. But even just growing in their Christian walk, as maybe as elementary as a quiet time, time where you open up God's Word, that you're reading, you're growing in your walk. Tell us what a quiet time, or you cracking your Bible open. What does that look like? What's that look like for you?
Mm-hmm. I am someone who loves nature, and I feel so close to the Lord when I'm out in nature, whether it's just like watching a sunrise or being out in the woods or whatever, just taking a walk. And so I love to sit outside when I'm doing my quiet time. And just like picking a devotional, even opening up like a Psalms or Proverbs of the day. Like if I really don't know what to go to, I just go to like the Proverbs of the day and take notes on it. And I don't know, sometimes it's as quick as 4 to 5 minutes or it's a little bit longer and I'm spending time in prayer, but it's so refreshing. Sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I've struggled with like almost allowing it to like feel like a drag. It's like, oh, like another thing to check off, or it's like another homework assignment, but it's not at all. And like every time I open my Bible, like I realize that it's like, no, this is so fulfilling, and I'm learning more about the Lord and what he wants for me. So that's basically what it looks like. Just also the book New Morning Mercies that I got freshman year from Tammy. That's always been such like an encouragement. And again, it's something like if I don't have anything I'm reading currently, go to the devotional of the day and take notes on it and just spend time in prayer.
That's so good. So what is God showing you lately? Like what is something like just maybe even just like a golden nugget or something that he's showing himself to you that you can maybe speak on?
I would just say right now, he's really been like, just like challenging me to be where my feet are. And I know that sounds like basic or whatever, but it's really been a challenge for me lately. I feel like my life has just been really crazy. And he's like, Kara, like you just need to rest. Like he's reminding me that he has a plan for me and that I don't need to worry about what's happening tomorrow, but to just be where I am and just take advantage of today and just really like sit in like gratitude for what I have. Like, I don't know, I saw a post the other day and I really felt like it was like God like literally speaking to me through a TikTok. And it was actually another female athlete, and she was just talking about like how we have the privilege to practice every day, how we have the privilege to fail and learn from it, how we have the privilege to play the game we love every day. And I think so many times, like being an athlete all my life, it is so easy to take for granted what I have. And it's like, no, like you're literally pursuing what you want to pursue and you have a platform with it as well. So I think that's just really been the big thing, just like being where my feet are and trusting that he's going to lead me.
You know, it's a joy for me to get a chance to do life and ministry with my wife. And there's a lot of pros that come along with that. There may be some that are, you know, at the same time we're pulled in a lot of different directions, but it's never a negative. One of the positives is just hearing, sometimes she doesn't always share everything that's happened, but just, you know, that when a young lady that she's talking to is really praying that God hears her heart about a boy, you know, about dating, and you know, this is what I want in a man. This is what I've prayed for, and I probably get more of that from the girl side than a lot of time from the guy's side. You get it from time to time, but really when both of those line up, where Tammy's giving me something, and I'm really giving Tammy something, and that's kind of happened with what you have going on now, where Ashton Gelati on our football team has been coming to FCA for some time as well. You two start talking, and it's been a joy because God's answering his prayer, just like he's answering your prayer, and it seems like it's moving in the right direction as far as just a godly courtship. How's that kind of playing out, I guess? How's that that God really does hear our prayers and stuff like that?
Yeah, Ashton's been such a blessing. Like you said, it really is such an answer to prayer. I've had my fair share of not great relationships or talking stages, whatever. When I got to college, it was pretty much a clean slate. I was like, okay, like I'm away from whatever I left at home, and I went on a few dates here, like whatever, but I was never like really like searching for something. But it was still like, oh, like I really wish I had that, you know, like I would pray about it. But when I finally like was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be content with what I have. Like I don't even really have time for a relationship. A few weeks later, it was like Ashton came out, whatever, started reaching out to me, and I was like, no, like I don't need this right now. I'm done with athletes. Like, I'm not even trying. And then now, little did I know it would blossom into something so beautiful. And it's just been so like I feel like our relationship has just really shifted my view of love and a romantic relationship, because I had so much like baggage from like previous relationships, just like not living up to what the Lord has called a relationship to be. And then seeing that in my own relationship now has been such a blessing. And it's just really like I've been learning so much. And I don't know, it's just been cool. I feel like we've both been able to take our baggage and drop it at each other's feet and be able to like grow with each other and heal through those things with each other, which has been super duper special.
Yeah, and it comes natural, and it comes.
Yes.
It's not a forced thing, and really, I like what I'd like to tell, especially athletes, because that's what we work with. Is like when you're going in the right direction with God, it's not work. It just comes natural, and if this thing is of God, it continues to go in that direction. And you got two people that want to please the Lord first of all, and then it's just an added thing that you get to do that with someone that's going in the same direction, and that's my heart. That's my heart for my daughters. Is that, hey, I want you to be so in love with the Lord that when something like this happens, you'll know. You'll know on that. But be so caught up in who God is to you, and that's a great thing. And He knows the schedule of an athlete too, because if you're dating a non-athlete, schedules can be so conflicting. But two athletes know that it can be very demanding on your schedule. But also, you don't see each other as just like the star athlete.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
you're both very much competing at your expertise. Well, let me get one more question. And like, sometimes I guess this changes of what season that I am, just not who He is, but the type of person that I see the Lord. Who is Jesus to you?
So many things, I feel like. I mean, I've seen Him as a father. I've seen Him as such a friend, like especially stepping into a new experience in college, like just like such a comforting hand, and just a leader in so many aspects of my life, whether that's spiritually or with volleyball or in my relationships. Like I don't know, I've really, really seen Him as just like a leader and an overseer and just a comforter. Like, I don't know, there's been so many times where I've just needed like comfort and peace, and like He provides that every time when I bring it to Him. And yeah.
Well, he does provide that. He's faithful. And man, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you for growing in your faith. I'm proud of you for being a leader on your team, but also on our campus. Man, I would hope and pray that as my girls grow, that I've said this with a few girls, but man, if they grew up to be like you, and man, we're blessed. Okay, so thanks for coming on our podcast. Thanks for letting your light shine for Jesus. Really appreciate it.